Hello, everyone. Jess Clair here with the awesome Bobby F Parihar. If you don't know who this guy is, you're about to. He's pretty damn awesome, which you're going to find out. So here you go. I'm just going to get myself up on Facebook. If you are jumping on, please do say hello. I love to engage with people. I love to get your thoughts on this stuff. This is quite an interesting topic tonight. We're going to be taking the mystery out of numerology. If I could actually get my Facebook to work and find out what the hell's going on with it. Okay. Where am I? Oh, there I am. There I am. Okay. Hello, Haley. Hello, those of you who are jumping on. Hey, Boo. Hey, Boo. If I can't see you, if you say Facebook user, you can go in and make yourself known to Facebook if you want to, but that's okay if you don't. Anyway, but please do say hello. Now, hello, Chloe, whilst I am saying hello to those people that are jumping on, Bobby, I would love if you would introduce yourself and tell everyone how on earth did you end up on Jess Clair's Curious Show? Where we're getting curious about numerology, which I was very unlikely to speak about, but I'm speaking about it to you.
Well, it's a blessing to be here, Jess. Thank you so much. I'm privileged and honored that you would create this space for us and get curious about numerology. I know it's a very strange looking thing. How did we connect? A friend of mine, or I guess someone inside of my Facebook just messaged me saying, hey, do you want to meet my friend? And I was like, well, of course, this person wants to do a podcast episode. And then we got a chance to connect visions. And I don't know, you're just a really charming person. And we became friends really quickly. And so, you're funny and all that stuff, right? So we basically just started talking numbers. And I guess the friendship just sort of formed pretty quickly. And I've been having fun with you ever since. I don't know what else to say, but it's been a pretty powerful friendship so far. And I'm just super blessed that we get a chance to take the mystery and the veil off and sort of see this from a very technical aspect, because it does get linked into a very spiritual space pretty quickly. But numerology is a very interesting thing for sure.
It is. It really is. And I just want to say hello to Emma and Peter and Danica and, again, anyone else watching. Marta, please do join into this. As you heard Bobby just said, we're going to take the veil off numerology and look at it technically. For those of you who know me, particularly some of my amazing spiritual friends, they will love that I'm making this very technical and tangible and very processed and methodical because that's what I do. But I really needed to understand it. And when I came across you, I was doing my human business podcast. I am all about exploring the way that people view the world, like the lens, getting curious. And I'd never sort of understood numerology. I still didn't. Mm-hmm. And and for anyone that's listening, I said to Bobby, are you okay if I ask all the questions that I used to ask about numerology? And he's like, yeah, sure. So let's dive into them. But I came across and I got this reading with Bobby and I was like, this is amazing. When you break it down into the formula of the numbers and you can tell me kind of the science and the quantum physics behind some of this stuff, I'm listening. I'm like, this is amazing. So I wanted to share this with you and share these sort of the intellect of this human, Bobby, so you can get an insight into it. And we might even look at some of my numbers because I have pretty numbers according to Bobby. Yeah. Very pretty numbers. Okay, so please do join in. So tell me, the first one I said to you was, Bobby, I'm afraid of getting my own numerology done because I'm really clear about the power of the mind and the power of mindset, right? Mm-hmm. And you're going to tell me the way my life's going to go. And if I believe it, it's just going to come true anyway. Mm. So I'm afraid to talk to you because I don't want you to kind of brainwash me into some future, and then because I'm brainwashed, it happens because whatever you believe pretty much works anyway, right?
Right.
So tell me, how is it the numerology is not brainwashing?
Well, I'd like to think that in a way it sincerely is. you have to recognize. I mean, when I read someone's numbers, I get a chance to get an insight into things that they already know. So when I say it to you, you get confirmation, being like, "Oh, how do you know that?" Like, that's so surreal to think that someone is being able to, or you're being able to read. I'm able to read your story through your name and your birthday. Like, it stops you, and you're kind of like, "What? This is a little weird." Because you don't want to, going back to the question you have, we're suggestible. There's the placebo, right? There's the nocebo. It's like, we're so suggestible as human beings that what are if we're being told something, does that influence us? And if we're looking for meaning in something, does that make us more suggestible? So I feel like with great power comes great responsibility, because you talk to someone and especially when what numbers are in their chart, you kind of you get used to knowing what keys to press. If I'm talking with an analytical person, I want to take the mystery out. I want to go deep. I want to take the magnifying glass out. If I talk to a bigger picture person, I don't want to worry about the details. I want to go more into the feeling and more into the passion of something. So you connect with someone depending on what numbers they have in their chart. And that can be pretty dangerous. So yes, of course, you have to be very, I like to think that, I know this is getting really spiritual pretty quickly, but you get judged on a spiritual level if you do bad, like karma. And so I believe strongly in that, you're walking a very fine line, because you can tell someone what they want to hear, and you can also really help them by giving them an insight into what's actually showing up in their chart. And that's the angle I like to take it. I'm like, well, there's parts of it that can look like a crystal ball. Like, you can look into the future, but you're just like my sister. She says the same thing. She's like, I don't want to know. Like, don't tell me. And I'm like, well, of course, you don't want to know your future. But it would be an epic idea for those who are curious to actually map out what numbers are showing up in their world, so that you can see where you've been, how come things keep curving around. And then the most strangest part, which I know we're here to take the mystery out of, is that you can change your name and put a weird letter in it, or change a spelling.
Take one out.
Or take one out. In your case, you change the spelling of your middle name based on my advice. I mean, that's a big deal, and that's a huge thing for me. I mean, as long as I understand what numerology is, I understand that you're changing your vibration, you're changing your frequency, the way you broadcast to the world. Like, there's so much involved in that. And so, yeah, it's a huge conversation. And I like to think that when dealing with skepticism and open but kind of closed mind, but open mind kind of thing, like an open and closed, you have to have respect for that, and say, you can't just pull something out of nowhere and say, oh, this is that thing that's going to fill in the gap and the secret answer key to the universe. That's talking a big game. So I can appreciate a lot of reservation, and people are just not going to tell me something overnight and just expect me to hear it. And I like to respect that. We're all human beings. So even when I'm talking to someone in a session, I'm kind of like, hey, this is a really sacred thing. Like, what I'm about to do here is like, I don't want to, just say it like it's nothing. This is your life, and this is your soul we're dealing with, like your actual existence. You wake up with this every morning. And so I just set that container for how honored I am to look at someone's numbers, because I can appreciate someone's like, oh, what are you going to tell me now? Right? Like, you probably say that to everyone. And, how often does this show up? And 1 out of 9, right? That's how many numbers there are. So really 1 out of 10 is usually how things end up showing up anyway in the universe.
Yeah.
But it's kind of a long-winded answer. I see some of my clients are on here. Heidi's here. She's a friend of mine. I put the J in her name. I think I saw someone else, Kylie Elizabeth, as well. But it's just so cool to be able to have your story narrated, and someone who doesn't know you. It's just such a validation, because you're sitting there thinking, did you read my Facebook profile? Did you look at my Instagram? Like, how do you know this about me? And it's just confirmation that God has a plan. Your story is written somewhere, and that the universe knows who you are, which can be a really surreal, very spiritually romantic thing, I think.
Yeah. So tell me about that, right? So the universe knows who you are. You've got this vibration. You're putting J in Heidi's name. You're taking an E off mine. There's everyone that's got like Aubrey V. I'm like, is that a Bobby client? Right? I've got now. I'm seeing all this sort of like trend pop up. I'm like, well, tell me about this vibration, like, and tell me about the science and like how the maths of vibration works and
Well,
frequency
okay.
works.
Yeah, this is a tough one, right? Because I'm pretty sure most of the audience that's listening to this isn't electrical engineer or even understand the ideas of sending data packets wirelessly. But the reality is that I'm using wireless technology here, wireless technology here, wireless technology on my camera. I got my router set up. I'm in Vancouver Island. So we're using frequency on a radio level already. Even the spectrum of light is a fraction of the entire spectrum of frequency. Visible light is like a toothpick. And so there's ultraviolet all the way to cosmic rays and radio waves. There's different levels of frequency that we're unable to imagine. Is all the stuff that's floating around in the air. At any given moment, you can send out a request to like get information to your phone or to your TV. So vibration is everything. And even Nikola Tesla says you want to understand the universe, you have to think in terms of energy, vibration, and frequency, and everything is it. I mean, you can imagine a piece of paper, you poke through it pretty good, the frequency is not that strong. However, if a brick you put your finger on, it's not going to go through because it's a dense material. So sometimes you have people like that as well, where you feel like you're talking to a wall and they're just like, I don't get it. And then you feel like you're talking to someone who's like so emotional and you're afraid to say something to them because they're like, oh my God, I did something wrong, didn't I? And, you know, and the emotions get the best of us. So to know that there are these different spaces, and even you hear it all the time, you know, good vibes only, or vibing high, or like, you know, like don't mess up my vibe. And like, you know, I see this picture all the time of like this cone of emotion. At the higher vibration, you experience enlightenment and nirvana. And when you get to the smaller part of the cone, it's despair and anxiety and grief and all the negative stuff that happens at the bottom. And depending on where you're at in your frequency, you get a chance to enjoy or not enjoy how that works with you. So measuring it out, you get a chance now to see, you know, what the frequency is inside of your birthday. You can't really change that around. Then there are people who change your name through, you know, marriage, or, you know, and imagine what's in a name, right? Like we're talking about your chart, we're looking at your numbers, and you're like, yeah, I don't really identify with certain parts of my name, or like, you know, because Jess,
yeah, I did,
Jessica, right? And there's others, but why? Like, what was given to you? Like your parents gave it to you for some reason, but there's something inside of us that's like, it's a personal thing. And so as much as we want to believe in the woo-woo about it or not, you can't just say, oh, yeah, let's call you Joss, right? You'll be like, okay, why? My name is Jess. Or like people call me like, you know, like if they say, hey, Bob, I'm like, oh, it's Bobby, but whatever. And like someone shortens my name, right? Everyone wants to shorten it. And I'm like, oh, Bobby's good. Bobby's okay. You leave it there. And people want to take it further than that. And so they, you know, it happens all the time. And my clients, they have a weird looking spelling name to their name. And it's almost got a hold on or a story for them. Sometimes it's like, oh, nobody knows how to pronounce my name ever since I was a kid. And you can see the emotion tied into that. And then you feel how good it feels when you find the right version of it. And they're like, holy shit, I love that. Like I was looking at, like, let's say Aubrey V. Lynn, powerful woman. We got a chance to connect with her and we were working together. And when we found this thing, it was like, and like powered on. And I'm like, oh, you see? And then, you know, it's this feeling that you just find the gold that like that magnetizes you, because you got to wear this thing. You got to show up to the world with this. And that can be tough sometimes, you know, when you have to fiddle around with letters that aren't, you know, yours. So when we found, because especially you, if you're high profile, let's see your case, an example, you know, what are we going to do? Jess X Clair, or like Jess F Clair, right? There was space there to do something strange like that. And then I'm like, yeah, but we got something more subtle. And then Jess Clair without the E suddenly just like clicked, and everything just sort of fit in there. And that, I guess, is probably how, you know, it feels when you find the right vibe. I was curious to feel how you were feeling about that. You know, you changed your name. Did you experience anything? Did you not? Sometimes people do. I'm not sure.
Yeah, it was exactly like that. You know, I'll share quite openly. I didn't want to go back to my married name. I didn't want to go back to my maiden name. I took on my middle name, but it was my middle name. It wasn't really my name. But now I have this brand called Jess Clair. I've got a branding manager that's like, don't change your name. And I'm like, but I don't really feel affinity to it. It doesn't feel like as much as I want to. Then I wanted to change it to Fox because I had that, you know, I really wanted to change it to Fox. And then you're like, yes. And then, you know, it was too close to someone else who had that last name. And I went, okay, let's just try dropping the E, right? The moment you drop the E, I was like, it actually takes on a new identity. Mm-hmm. It was different. And I'm actually curious, how how do letters convert to a vibration? How does a name, how does that work?
You know, I like to think of humans, again, we apply meaning, right? We make things do what we want them to do. Because, you know, I was looking at a guitar and it's just a fretboard, right? And then you put your hands on a certain thing. Oh, that's G sharp or that's C minor. And it's like we've applied meaning to them the same way we can take an alphabet and go A is 1, B is 2, C is 3, and then we can add it up. And this is, I guess, the stuff that I've learned is Pythagorean numerology. Was this, you know, mathematician Pythagoras back in the day that says everything has meaning and there's meaning inside of everything. And if you see it, you can see the meaning. Like totally, I would imagine this guy probably went crazy the way that I did when I first learned numerology and I started reading people's charts and they're like, oh my God, how did you know that? And this and that. I'm like, I didn't know that. And that's what the numbers say. And people are like, you've got some sort of psychic gift. I'm like, no, I don't. I have the key. I know what the numbers mean. And they're like, no, you're intuiting things. You're psychic into this. And I'm like, okay, I guess maybe I have that. But I like to think in terms of the skeptical mind that says, no, you can learn how to do this because these are now, I was taught a language. And then now the same way you're getting taught a new instrument, are you going to play with it? Or are you just going to say, oh, that was nice and leave it there? Or now you're going to take your pen out and be like, oh, coffee. Or, oh, yeah, and then see Batman. And, like, what are the different words? What do they mean? What are the meanings behind them? And how do they align to how we appreciate what they feel in our lives? It's such a cool thing. It's so interesting.
It's fascinating. And listening to you talk about it, let me tell you, I like Lolit's gone. I'm confused.
Yeah, me too.
I know. So I want to get into the detail of it a bit more.
Yeah.
And just for those who are jumping on, hello. Who said, there's a couple of people that said hello to me. Linda, Aubrey, Kelsey,
you were intense.
Sonia. Yes, so you're intense, but I love it. I think she says the same thing about me. It's all good. And Sonia has a question about married name as well, but I just want to ask you, so is it as simple as 1 is A, 2 is B, and then it goes on?
Yep.
And so if you have a word castle, do you just put all those numbers together and it gives a frequency?
Yep.
Because that was like you. So my name is the same frequency as castle. I remember you saying that.
Yeah. And like castle holds the same word as wealth, and you know the word like gratitude and holy. So there's this fine line of like creation energy that Jess Clair comes in at now. That you're synonymous with these words that bring value and increase wealth. It's so cool.
But so that's a saying. So L is LOVE, so love, is the frequency of what?
It's not good.
Isn't it?
The frequency of love is not good. I saw this earlier and I'm like, what? And I guess the way that I interpret it is that it gives, like love just loves. It wants to give more than it receives.
So it's like out. It's a frequency.
Yeah.
Like,
I love. And if your love isn't returned, oh no, right? And that's why they say you have to love yourself. So I guess that kind of makes sense. Because when I look at
that's great.
It explains this. I'm giving it to you, and I'm gonna cut my own arm off for you. And I'm like, that's a little intense. But I guess I kind of feel into what love is and how it sort of works in there. But it's interesting how certain words hold certain meanings.
Yeah. Okay. And so so love, you just add up the letters to get to a number, which gets a frequency.
Yep.
Okay. And so of course, then when you're born, your letters add up to a number, which give a frequency to you.
Yeah. And I mean, it's the way that I look at it. A couple of analogies is like one, it's like a car on a road, and your birthday is the road, and your names are the vehicle. And then you describe the way that you walk through life, like little baby Bobby or Bobby Jr. Or like, my son is baby Robert. So there's names that he's locked into. His name isn't baby Robert, but I call him baby son, my baby son. Like that's the names I give him. That's in the car he's in right now. And so as he gets older, he's going to go into Robbie or Rob or Robert, and he's going to switch his car. He's going to go into a different vehicle. And then he's going to go through high school. I don't want to be called Robbie anymore. Dad, you got to call me Rob now. Like I'm 15, okay? And so the feeling there says that you're going to grow through again. And then even, especially when it comes to women who are getting married, sooner or later, if you change your name for marriage, you'll be like, okay, well, I'm going to go into this direction and I'm going to wear this now. And that's why things get all messed up when you get married, because, you know, your vibration changes. And sometimes it's a beautiful thing when I'm working with a couple, and because of marriage, the name just explodes into greatness. Or then because of marriage, suddenly I'm no longer myself. I lost myself. I lost my communication. I don't feel like me anymore. And, you know, we lose ourselves in a way. Ever since we took this name, something's changed in us. And sometimes it always doesn't always work in our favor. I remember even working with Esther. I made up my surname. I remember we did that. I'm not sure if we did it or not, but sometimes you do that, right? You have to find something new to operate in. It's so cool.
No, this is really good. So I do want to address this part, because this is where I go, and in a tangible way, it kind of leaves me with oh, it wasn't my fault the relationship didn't end then. It was my vibration. Yep. If I didn't change my name, it wouldn't have, because, you know, we did the numbers on my surname, which not many people know what my surname is, my actual legal surname. And it was like, it's like, it choked you, took it out. I was like, I knew it. It's not my fault.
Well, that's the thing, right? I mean,
I could just go to my ex now, Bobby. I told you it wasn't my fault. The numerology and the numbers said.
Yeah. So you were a jerk, and it wasn't me. It was all you. But yeah, that's kind of the thing that I deal with when I'm telling someone. I'm like, you know, you're off the hook now because you didn't choose your name, you didn't choose your birthday. These things were given to you, and sometimes you're like banging your head against the wall. You're like, I really want to be in love. Like, what's the deal? And if you see in your numbers, oh look, you may be giving it more than you're giving it to yourself, and then you're like, fuck. See, I knew it. I knew that was happening, right? And then like you kind of like process. You're like, see, I knew this is right. This is totally me. I'm always giving out to other people instead of me. And then we put the idea back together, and then you're free. You're no longer held hostage by it, and it's no longer a mystery. It's like a perfect example. We're just going to pick on Jessica versus Jess. Jessica is loving, caring, giving, very super sweetie, and then Jess is entrepreneurial and social, and hey, how you doing? Ready to go. So there's a power in there that's like a caster, like a newscaster, broadcaster. And then on the other side, when you're Jessica, it's like, I want to be romanced, I want to be in love, I want to enjoy. And so the spaces in there give you different platforms to operate from, which is cool how your brand shows up as Jess. So it's like one of those ideas and areas that we go into. Yeah.
And the other one was, well, let's answer Sonia's question. I'd love to hear Bobby's thoughts on keeping your married name when you have kids, but you're now divorced. I grappled with this too. Yeah. So what are your thoughts on that?
You know, we were talking about the self, and like, it's a challenge because I'm a guy and I'm not going to change my name, you know, for marriage. So I don't have to deal with this. I wouldn't want to keep my spouse's last name even if my kids had it. Some women feel, no, I don't want to go back. Some people feel like I don't want to keep this either. I want to move forward. And so my thoughts are you doing your vibration a disservice? Sometimes I have to help someone reconcile that out of a relationship that broke, at least they got a good looking name. And the name is what they really get a chance to own if they don't care that they're keeping it. Some people are like, I don't want it. And for me, I don't care how good the name is. If it's got a negative experience and you don't want to hold it, that's enough for me to be like, I'm not going to say the name again. If you don't want to have it here, we don't need to have it here. But it's, again, the power of the name of what do you want to hold. I like to think, well, it's a very noble and honored thing to not confuse your kids through high school when, you know, they have to deal with this. I mean, it's a real thing. Relationships break, and sometimes there are more than just two people involved. I'd like to think, is it hurting you? You know, the answer to the question is, if that vibration doesn't serve your wealth, your love, your happiness, your legacy, your magnetism, then why would you want to keep it, right? It doesn't have to do with the kids. Now if I was my parents, I'd be like, that, what is that name going to do for me? Like, if you guys aren't together, shouldn't you do what you want to do for you? I'm kind of in the space of empowerment, but I like to think of it as a nice thing to do for your children so that they don't have to deal with stuff. But if it's at the expense of yourself, then suddenly that's a different topic. Thinking, oh, well, because it could be argued, and not saying this is yours, Sonia, when you said this, but the feeling could be that, oh, I am just going to sacrifice myself and keep this name because my kids have it, and so I can't take my own power back And then we end up uncovering something like that says, hey, your name is you, you're important and empowered. If you keep it, let's just make it work. If you don't need to keep it, let's make it work. But whatever you want to do, let's make it work. So that when you go out of here, you feel like you're singing a song and you're on the right frets on the keyboard, as opposed to feeling like, and like the same vibration that leads things to fray and unfold. Like my vibration before I got aligned was all about wanting to excel in business, but a dismal sense of self. So I would nail the interview and then get fired. It was like the cycle that I would go through. I'm like, does the world hate me? And I'm like, why am I so good at the interview, but I can't keep the job? And then I was just either insubordinate, or I was smoking weed, or I didn't want to show up, or there's always some stupid shit reason that I was like a horrible employee with so much potential. And I was like, and then when I put my number in there, next thing you know, it was like, stop getting jobs, start my business, start my family. And it was like, I was struggling to get in. And then next thing you know, it was like, you don't need a job. Now you're independent in wealth, and look who comes into your life. And the next thing you know, everything's exploded for me.
Yeah. And Sonia says, and I'll come to Lolit as well, just on that. I'm torn between F you to my ex and keeping the name for what's best for my kids. I mean, that's the vibration of it, right? That's what you find, is that these things, you're holding a vibration like that with your name, right?
This is something I deal with all the time. So what I would like to do is at least just appreciate Sonia in a specific sense. I appreciate you for thinking about what's best for your kids, but F you to your ex. Like, what's the biggest? I would like to think that your kids are going to be okay if you take a name or not. You could even build one around your middle name, but it's not like you're screwing your kids over because if you have a F you feeling to your ex. That's enough for me to be like, well, I guess you should probably find something that you can really identify with. It's just tough when there's kids involved that you don't want to screw everything up, because we're parents, right? I'm a parent. I want to do the best for them, sacrifice myself. That's a parent thing to do. When I'm looking at this, I'm like, well, when you hire me, I'm here for you. I'm not here for your kids. And what's best for your kids is for you to be happy and you be fulfilled and to do all the things, right? Instead of just sacrificing yourself for your kids. And so I'd like to think that's a tough one, but Sonia doesn't even have a middle name. Yeah, so it's a very.
You get to make one up.
Yeah, you get to make one up, like Esther.
You do, and it's what Esther. Well, yeah, I was about to go to Fox. Claire's a made-up last name now that is not the right spelling of my middle name.
Yeah.
But like ultimately, you can feel the vibration there. Like even feel it, Sonia. Like F you to my ex. Yeah. I'm worried about my kids. So there's kind of this. I stuck because of my kids, and F you to my ex, right? It's like, well, if you were to let go of all of that and create something that was really powerful for yourself, what kind of vibration would that, like, I think the way I think about it, Bobby, if anything in my life that's been powerful has always been choice.
Yeah.
So when you choose, like, this is what I'm doing, this is my choice, and it's free of FUs.
Yeah.
And it's also free of being stuck. So I'm not stuck with this. I'm not an FU to anything. I'm actually just choosing this.
Well, I'd like to add in here that you're creating a space to give permission for people to take their freaking power back, because this is the problem we have is social media. We're just watching. We're not saying anything. And then there's people like us who are actually out there saying stuff. So you guys out there in the audience, I mean, some of my clients in here, you guys are going to be up here interviewing people, sharing your message and your value. You got to bring that to the world. So you're creating a space for people to take permission, to give permission to people for them to take the power back. And that's, I think, the biggest thing we're missing. So it's tough because, in this case, Sonia's like, well, I got to take, what am I giving? The choices aren't even about you. This like, one is like, well, I don't like my ex. The other one is like, well, I got to take care of my kids, but what's going to make you feel the most empowered? And sometimes it's tough. There's no middle name. I don't want to go back to my maiden name. And, how do you do it? Because what happens if Sonia Mertens isn't actually a vibration of power? We would have to add a letter anyway. What happens if your old one was more powerful? And you're like, well, no wonder I got married, but then I didn't keep the relationship, because then the things go through change and you lose something that you truly were at the beginning, right? So it's a challenge to this is life, guys. This isn't something that's just easy, right, on Facebook. No,
and it's so. Just on that as well, Lolit says the addition of the letters in my name is 64. So that makes it 10. So 1?
Yeah. So what can I?
Yeah. Do you want to start? Because there's a few questions coming up, and I thought you could use my chart as an example to get people going, so you can actually see how the numbers. But I want you to see his formula. His formula. I was like my analytical, because I'm analytical and I love structure and all that. But when I brought that up, can you share? Are you able to share from your end?
You want me to put my screen on for you guys?
Yeah, I want to check out these charts.
Well, I
want
want
to see if I
can.
or you.
Yeah, I'm gonna pull your chart up so I can find it, and then that way, we can have a little quick look. This is so I guess you're okay to do this. I mean, I'm blessed that you would share yourself like this.
Yeah, I love it. I think it's hilarious. wait. I honestly, and the reason I think it's hilarious is because I felt like Bobby had been listening. I was like, surely you've just heard me talking all my conversations on Facebook.
Yeah.
It was literally like, he's like, no, I've never met you before. I don't know who you are.
So funny.
I was like, how do you know all this? Yeah.
So let me see if I can find, let me see if I can share a screen here. So you can see my blank desktop right now. Okay, cool. Yeah. So let me just see if I can pull up, where was your chart now? So what I'm going to do is find it. There it is. And let's see, here we go. Woohoo. Okay, so maybe I should probably make this a bit bigger. And then,
yeah, I can't really see it.
No, I know. I'm just going to do something like this. Is that a little bit easier to read, or is that still too small?
It's still really small, yeah.
Hold on. Let's see if I can do it like this now. I get it. We got technology here.
Oh, yeah. That's good. Oh, yeah, cool. Whoa, that's fun. Whoa.
There we go. So we'll just leave it like that if that's okay.
Yeah.
So basically, when I go through a chart with someone, what I'm doing is I'm taking a technical analysis look, very much as a look at the math here of all of the different spaces in each part of your name, so that we get a chance to take a look at all of the unicorns that show up inside of your chart, the workhorses and the stallions. And sometimes we have donkeys and ponies who don't pull their own weight. And then we have other parts in this who are like, look, I'm going to do some power. I'm going to do some damage. We're going to do some creation. And it's like, being able to turn the lights on. I like to also use the analogy of walking around your life like it's like, the lights off in the living room. And you're just banging yourself against the furniture of your own life. And as we turn it on, you're like, oh, there's my analytical side. Oh, there's my side for partnership. There's my giant heart. Oh, there's the part that always feels like it always gets into trouble in love. Or there's the part that says, oh, I'm in trouble in love. I got to run. Or then there's maybe the part in there that says, I want to be entrepreneurial, or like, I want to build my own wealth. I'm not going to do this for someone else. And then there's another part that says, but I'll do it for someone else for a very long time. Figure it out, right? So it's a cool thing. And, we chuckle about this because I'm like, well, I know you. And like, now I know you because I've seen this and I've experienced you. But it's just like, you can apply, you take your own meaning from this and you're like, nope, yep, that's me. And like, you get a chance to see these inside of these equations. And I mean, just to be fair, when I'm looking at this, like 7 and 3, I understand 7 is an intuition. 3 is a vibration of joy and creativity. So when you put those two together, it's like, oh, it doesn't quite match, right? There's a vibration that doesn't work. Whereas you see another one, the 6 and the 2, those vibrations are partnership and mentorship. So when you add them together, they equal out to wealth. And so there's an equation there that you can use that is also like, let's say, Alan, the same vibration as the word, oh, it doesn't work here, but it's the same vibration as the word God. So when we see the vibe in there, we have a nice connection to mentorship, partnership, wealth, and law of attraction inside of the last name. So it's keyed up that you should, create wealth for yourself. It's a part of your destiny. And then when we look at your birth path, it says, oh, you're going to build it yourself. Like you've got wealth numbers that show up inside of your chart all the way around. That's why we were saying earlier, no, you got good looking.
Whereabouts is this? Where are the wealth numbers?
8 in Jess. 6 in Jessica Clair, 8 in Alan, and now 8 or 6 inside of Jess Clair, and then also your life path is 4, and you've got a nice looking thing in this planet what says you're going to do some pretty cool stuff. So yeah, I appreciate making it very technical because a lot of this feels very spiritual when you go into your spirit and how you are, but this helps people to put the dots together. And it feels like you're being freed. Like now you understand the crossword puzzle of your life, and you're like, oh,
Yeah.
and I usually like to help people. You remember these numbers, like remember the 4, remember that you're hardworking, or the 2 that you're very loyal, or like the 9 that you have a fairy tale level of love or a humanitarian level of service. The 9 energy says she's here to help people. And when you see a 9 and a 4, you're like, she's building the road for people. So it's a nice fit that and then because I remember before we were recording, you're like, you seem to know something. I'm like, yeah, you got a good looking chart. Like you're on the path now. I mean, you guys know her story, corporate for a while and then decides to break free and go into your own sort of digital space. What more beautiful of a way where, you have the capacity to create your own wealth. Like you shouldn't be doing that for someone else. You must have been very popular, from an employer standpoint, but now it's because you have the ingredients to do something on your own. And it's not that you do anything on your own. Like this vibration says, well, I want to do this with people. So it's nice to be that because you're helping build stuff and it's cool. We do this all the time. But then of course the equation on top, Jessica Clair Allen, this is about chaos. And this is the vibration of I'm going to blow stuff up. I'm going to break things. I want to rip stuff. So as a vibration 5 that says, I want out of here. And then the 4 vibration says, I'll stick around. I'll stay here. I'm going to be stable. There's a bit of a nuclear reaction. Like the tables are set. What's going to happen here? Are you going to jump out the window? Are you going to be like, F you, I'm fired. I'm out of here. Or like, and then you kind of like snap out of your daydream and you're like, no, I'm back at my desk. I get it.
Sorry, that's pretty much my whole corporate career. Just for everyone listening, my maiden name, so my birth name is Jessica Clair Allen. My married name is Jessica Clair Sponza, and I'm just in the process of changing my name legally to Jess Clair.
Yeah.
With no E, which is that one. So, sorry. That's so just so everyone could go, who's Jessica Clair Allen, Jessica Clair Sponza? That's how that is. But it was a corporate career. My corporate career was like I blew shit up. I got in trouble. I came back. I blew shit up. I got in trouble. I came back, and I'm like, here I am. And then, and I was only half strength. Like I felt like I was just literally, I was radical, but I was half strength. Sorry, continue.
So yeah, the chart gives us a lot of technical analysis into what you are and all the cool things that you can really pull out of that. So for me, looking at this, I feel like I'm able to be of value and of service to someone so that they don't feel like they're pulling themselves apart or, exhausted and not understanding, why, or maybe, have a desire to be in love, but then it always seems to break when you get to a certain level. It can be a bit of a challenge to go through that. Right. So maybe I'll stop my screen share, but at least so we know what's in your chart. That's the most empowering thing. I like to think you win the war when you are able to conquer what's within you and you're not, torn apart by yourself.
Yeah, absolutely. It gave me, like you told me that I had a life path of 4 and then I had some other path of 5.
Yeah. Name path. Well, your original name path was 5. So order and chaos.
So I have this balance of order and chaos.
Yeah.
Which is, I'm like, that feels about right.
Balanced. I hope it's balanced.
It does feel that way.
And then you know when to unlock. And that's balance, is knowing what to do when. I like to think that's part of the deal. Yeah,
pretty much. And we've got a couple of people asking some questions here as well. So the
addition of numbers 64. So I would go again, 6 plus 4 equals 10, 1 plus 0 equals 1. I keep on reducing it, right? So when I see a
1 to 9.
Yeah, we see a 1 is going to be like leader, independent, but then, it depends on how you read numerology. I pull things apart by vowels and consonants. So, if you could add up all the letters, or you can add up vowels on one side, consonants on the other side, and then another number was resulting after you add them together. So there's so many different ways to interpret numerology. And I don't know if this is the space for us to read into people's different names, but I do that. So that is a thing that I would recommend.
Yeah. So if you do want to get in touch with Bobby directly, he's in here. He can put a link in to his website. And you can book in with him. I'm sure you'll do that anyway, Bobby, if you want to go in and just drop a link for everyone so they can get in contact with you. He does numerology readings, so you can go and talk to him. But for now, what I wanted to talk to you about is actually the tech, like really get technical about how you do it, right? There you go. You just createloveandwealth.xyz. There you go. Thanks, Bobby. So I said to you, I was blown away by this, and I do need some real, like, tangible, make this tangible for me. So I said the other one was, how do I know, numerology just isn't some other way we found? Life is way too uncertain and hard. It really is, actually. Legitimately, life is uncertain and hard. So I'm just going to read my numbers so I don't have to be responsible for anything.
I would like to think if that's your attitude, and I know I can appreciate, I actually get this, in real life. If that's the attitude, you're probably not going to amount to success. If you're trying to, get out of responsibility from anything through anything, it's like, oh, this is my crutch. For me, I get caught in that all the time because we talk between me and my wife, and I always go back to numbers. She's like, it's not always about numbers. And I'm like, well, it's the easiest way for me to process data, but you get lost in it pretty easily, especially when I find meaning in it so easily. So when I look at this, I'm like, well, if I can tell you your story without knowing you, there must be something in there that is getting validated every time I have that experience. And for some people, it's a challenge. Some people just are not going to have the conversation. Some people are looking and they're praying for an answer and a meaning. I'd like to think it's a very delicate space again. So, I'm looking for validation. I'm validating someone and saying, well, if I can tell you your story with what you've got so far, chances are then the next equation is going to do the same. But I don't know how much you're going to work. I'm throwing you the keys. You still got to drive. You still got to have a license. You still got to get on the road. You got to do all of this stuff inside of your wealth to drive it. I'm just giving you the vibration. And if you don't use it, great. And you put it in a safe, it's not going to do anything. But if you journal every day, if you go into a meditation every day, if you introduce yourself every day and your social media every day, these things start to take hold, and then you start to put in the work, and then you start to see the bricks come out, and lo and behold, you're building a road, you're building a house, you're building a castle. But some people stop at a few bricks and like, this is hard, or they just like, no, I didn't know I had to do all this. And some people are like, no, I knew I was going to build a legacy. I knew I was going to build a road. It's going to take me 10 years. Nobody's going to stop me. I'm going to do everything. God damn it. Even if it's numerology, I'm going to do it. Yeah. A lot of people are like, I'm just going to be fair. I just did this because my friends told me to do this. I'm super skeptical. I'm like, come here, girl. I got you. Don't worry. I am too. And we're going to go easy on this. And I appreciate that comment more than anything else. Is that, look, I'm doing this out of recommendation. This is weird and woo-woo. I'm like, we're going to look at math the whole time. So we take a new spin on it. But I like to think this is spirituality for skeptical people.
Yeah.
And enjoy it.
It's interesting. It's not that I'm not skeptical about spirituality, right? I know I'm not. In fact, the people that are closest to me would say I'm probably spiritual AF. Mm-hmm. Right. I have I just have my own spirituality, very personal.
Yeah.
I think that's probably, and I'm not even talking about God, right?
Yeah.
It's not, for me, it's not religious. For me, it's like a connection to myself, to the earth, to the universe. And there are just certain things that I cannot argue with that happen in my life. Mm-hmm. Like the synchronicity in my life is ridiculous.
Yeah.
And I can't argue with that. I call myself a creator of things and I do certain things. And if I was to try and sit down and explain to everyone that, I don't think it would make sense.
No.
So I don't, right? Because I'm like, how do I tangibly explain that I talk to plants, right? And I really feel connected to the earth. How do I tangibly explain that? So I don't, because I can't really explain it. All I can say is that I sit down and I put my feet in the grass and I find meaning, as you would put it, in actually sitting there and just, I guess, appreciating the little things in nature that exist.
I appreciate you for bringing that kind of stuff up. I mean, looking at your numbers, you do have creation energy. You have the like I'm gonna build it myself energy. So there's a connection to source, and that like the earth is a really good way of putting it. But you're a bridge. So because of life path 4 is like I'm skeptical, but a name path 5 says I'm curious. So it's like, okay, I want to test it. Okay, come back. I'll share what I learned. Go a little bit further, push the envelope, and then come back and reinforce it. So it's kind of like a tide, and it just keeps on going back and out and back and out. And that's the style I'd like to think of you. Says, I'm going to make it safe. I'm going to go out there and see what I can find. If I don't like it, I'm not bringing it back. But if I do like it, I'm going to make it real. Let's get curious, and then let's move. And then we found on another piece of the universe. And I'd like to think this is one of the hugest building blocks. You can see this in a flower. You can see this in a car. You can see numerology in a house. It's in the clouds. Like it literally is in every single thing. And it's such a cool feeling. But having a 4, it's like, well, control. We want to know the process. We want to know the order. We want to know how does the math work? Like how are these equations? And that no 2 is satisfied, as opposed to if I take a crystal. I'm like, okay, look at the crystal for 5 minutes, and then I'm you'd be like, what the hell? Like,
I know.
Yeah.
Speaking of, I've got like my little crystals here too.
Oh, there you go. Nice.
and I've got my plant called Jack.
Oh, that's awesome.
I got a plant. Oh, look,
with your green screen.
With my green screen because he's green.
Wow, that's the coolest looking plant. It's invisible.
It's invisible. I get it. It's like, it's true. That's exactly what I do. For me, it's there. I can't describe to you the level of humans around me are so incredible.
Yeah.
And yet I can't tangibly explain what they offer and they value yet. So I don't talk about it.
Well,
but
the way that I easily explain it is that of the spectrum of frequency, a fraction is visible. So of the spectrum of realm of possibility, only a fraction is actually apparent. We don't understand. We think we understand everything, but we have like such a minimal understanding of anything. And so like we've got the whole thing. I'd like to think after learning numerology, I think time is backwards, existence is backwards. We look like computer programs. Like, are we even really alive? Is this even a thing? Like, I've got so many more questions now than I did before, and it's such a cool thing to appreciate.
That's actually, if I could do anything, I want to spin people into curiosity.
Yeah.
I don't want anyone to, in fact, I don't want anyone to believe anything. I believe nothing, and I'm interested in everything.
Exactly. Yeah.
So I'm like, if someone says, because there's a lot of stuff going around, this is the truth, I'm like, I'm not going to believe you.
Yeah.
But I want to sit down with you for a few hours and really understand how you came to believe that.
Yeah.
And what is it you're concerned about? And what are your fears? And really, how much do you go home and share what's going on with the people in your life? That's what I care about.
Wow.
And do you express your sadness?
Yeah.
And how much? And do you like punch a pillow when you're angry, or do you make anger wrong? Like, I'm like, I care so much about what's going on with the human being that has the belief that I want to know more than just the belief. I want to know it all. Wow. Right? So I'm like, so if you have a belief, I'm fine. We just need to sit down for a few hours and discuss the whole thing. That's all.
Sure, of course, yeah. But someone else was asking a question earlier about finding wealth. So you can use this for so many different purposes. But I'd like to think, and this is to answer Kelly's situation. If you're expecting a letter in your name to change everything, then I would like to think that it's one of like let's look at this from the skeptical thing here. You have to drive your business. You have to drive your wealth. You can set yourself up, but you still have to take it out there. So if you're saying this here, like she's like, can numerology help me with finding a job that suits you as an individual rather than work because you need a job? Yeah, I'd like to think there's nothing wrong with an ends to a means to an end, but there is nothing wrong either with finding your passion and being able to that suits you. That's a big topic. So I just wanted to put that out there because most of the people come to see me as entrepreneurs and they're like, I want this business to fly. And then I look at all of their numbers and they don't say entrepreneur, they say employee, or I'm scared of my voice, or I want to try something, but I don't have the staying power. And then we look at vibrations that help you to stay. And then, we see how much it sticks, right?
Yeah, beautiful. And Is there any other questions? Like I really want to make sure that this is like really tangible, the maths. And what I would like to share as well from doing my reading, it really validated a lot for me.
Mm-hmm.
It was like what you said, there was this tiny little bit that I could see, but you could see the whole thing.
Mm-hmm.
So hang on, let me put it another way. There was a tiny little bit that I could express and couldn't quite like express it fully. But when you said, like when I actually said, oh, by the way, there's all these things that I've written down that I'm doing, and this is my 10-year plan, you already knew all of that in the numbers.
Yeah. And it is,
like,
yeah, because we're trying to take the veil out, and then you say something like that. I'm like, no, don't make me sound like I know the future, because it's tough.
I know it's, but in the frequency, like this is what the frequency and the vibration of my birthday, the date I was born. So it's not just my name, but it's also my birthday. And then there are certain numbers about me. When you put them all together, there are certain things that you can sort of you calculate per se.
Yep. And I found this out in business. My dad is a retailer ever since I was a kid, clothing store. And so, he was like, it's business. There's you open your store and you close your store, and then there's a container of things that are going to happen that are in the realm of business. And the same thing in life. We like to think that it's a very free variety, but really we're all born, we die, we grow, and we get older, and that's the same mechanism is involved. So to have more and more power over that process is like critical because it's the 9 numbers, and they all just sort of keep like the same 9 flavors I've got in my kitchen. I can make a bunch of different flavors. The same 9 notes, or 7, whatever notes it is inside of the scale, you can make an infinite of symphony. The same thing with your birthday. You can have these 9 features, and then they all mix in to make a salty, sweet, spicy kind of mix of a person that is just uniquely your flavor. So it's cool to see that.
Yeah, no, it's great. And I think Lola is trying to get on your site too, and she just can't download the email. So
reach out to Lola, because I know sometimes it seems like it doesn't work, but I know that it does. So if it's not working for you, I'll just send it to you manually. And then also, I guess because on my site there, it allows you to calculate your birthday, and then it'll send you sort of my short little rendition of what your numbers say on just for your birthday. So it's kind of the beginning. And then I guess the next one is, how does it intersect with astrology? That's a really cool, it's a very cool thing to think about, because astrology isn't aligned with the beginning of the month. Usually around the 20th or something of the month, your sign changes and a new set of stars are in the sky during that time. And so for me, I'm looking at this, and I love astrology. It makes me feel like astrology is a shape of like a clock, like gears on a clock, for what is represented for what we feel is the universe or the solar system. And I find parallels in it all the time. I'm fascinated with astrology the same way that people are fascinated with numerology. I had no idea about it. I'm looking at this, I'm like, oh my God, this is so cool. Because in numerology, I can find this. And in astrology, when I get my reading, someone's like, hey, you should take a look at your chart. You're a big deal. I'm like, my numbers say that about me. And then if I look at my natal chart or whatever, it shows that as well too. So for me, I don't personally bridge between it, but I can see, like I identify one, like my sisters are born in January with Capricorn energy. And I find that in there. But then I also have my cousin who's born in October. She's a 1 month as well, the same as January. She also identifies with that same drive, charge energy. And it's not part of her astrology, but it's part of the one. So it's a challenge, because then even, just to make things even funnier, there's Ayurvedic astrology, Japanese, Korean astrology, there's Chinese astrology. There's, so many different spaces of it. I do Pythagorean. There's the other one, like a Chaldean. And so there's so many different spaces to interpret that you have to keep things really loose for yourself. Yeah.
There's so much to know about this. I mean, even in like frequency and vibration in itself, mathematics is infinite.
Yeah.
So, and numbers, whilst it's 1 to 10, there's so many different places that you can look at the numbers and the frequency and the vibration of, right? Yeah. What you've done is just put it into formula, a spreadsheet of certain things that are going to happen in your life, certain experiences, your name, your birthday. What other things is it? Like you even were able to tell the energy and vibration of my business name.
Yeah. So anything you can say, anything that you can like, you know, actually like read or experience, you'll be able to put it into like words can turn into numerology. So it's a very powerful to be able to see it there.
Yeah. Okay, great. And if anyone wants to reach out to you and have a conversation with you about numerology, you do readings?
I do. Yeah, I do. I work with people one-on-one. You can also follow me on Facebook or just message me if you're curious. Lo, I'd love to connect with you for sure. Cause you know, I like to believe that we're divinely timed to hear something like this. And if you're open to the conversation, it does matter because social media, right? I mean, forget social media, online, digital space, you're owning your own digital real estate, and never has a name been more important than it is in the 21st century, where you show up on Google and like, you know, people can find you. So to know that it's in the right order, I like to think it's everything. But when we go back to the tangible and sort of like making it real, the reason why I found it again after I knew it in spirituality was I found it in entrepreneurship, where it was now about a technical equation of creating wealth as opposed to a mystical look into the crystal ball and what can you see. Now we have the power to actually go in and take a look at these concepts. And I'll just give you guys a really quick crash course and one identify. We're just going to use the most stereotypical version of this. They've got a whole list of identities and definitions in each number, but 1 would stand for leader, 2 would stand for partner, 3 would stand for artist, 4 would stand for builder, 5 would stand for fighter, and 6 would stand for balance or family, 7 would stand for God, 8 would stand for law of attraction or wealth, and 9 would stand for humanity or ultimate cosmic love. So as you start putting and pouring these ingredients in, you find that some work really well together and some make you feel like you're beating yourself up. And that can be a challenge to think I'm fighting myself. Like in my case, everyone's like, Bobby, you got so much power. And I'm like, yeah, I got nothing. And I felt like I didn't have anything when everyone else was trying to explain to me how good I was. I didn't believe in myself. And so there was a challenge in there because my numbers were like, I'm no good. I shouldn't amount to anything. And at a negative, I am. So it was something I had to work on. But yeah, having these, the palette of colors, you get a chance to paint the numbers in your life. It's a powerful conversation, guys. I recommend having it.
Yeah. And like you said, like it's not that you're telling the future. You validated a lot of what just though the validation of it gave me, it was empowering. It's an empowering conversation of self.
Thank you. Yeah, that's the whole point. That's what I like to say is how can one conversation change your life? And I want to have that. I want to be the one that says, can I turn you on and the engine of your wealth on in such a way that cannot be turned off again? Like, how do we set this thing on fire so that you don't keep putting yourself out?
Yeah, and that was exactly my experience. It was great.
So you're changing your name to Jess Clair. That's huge.
Yeah. Oh, Bobby, when I make a decision, I just go. It just happens. Yeah. I changed everything an hour after everything that I could. An hour after I got off the phone to you.
Wow. Amazing.
I'm like, okay, I'm locked in. Yeah, you're the expert. Deal.
Yeah, but the legal stuff, I mean, I gave you dates, so I'm not going to go into that right now, but that's a big
That's
move.
Okay.
That's a big
move. I've actually even filled out all the paperwork to change my birth certificate.
With some serious power there, because you're just setting a stamp to your government saying, I'm going to pay taxes with this. I'm going to show up my driver's license. I'm going to step into a car with this. I'm going to sign a house with this, buy a car with, like, these are big purchases, and legal stuff is huge, guys. It's just as big as social media for sure. But like how blessed am I that I got a chance to be a part of that? Because if it wasn't for our conversation, wouldn't have been going in that direction. And I get a chance to play a role in the success that I believe you were intuitively, divinely in like times. It was supposed to be yours. So it makes me feel like I was also supposed to be there, which is a pretty cool feeling.
Yeah, it was beautiful. And I'm really, really honored that you could be a part of it. As far as I'm concerned, it's like, it takes, and I say this all the time, it takes a community to create an entrepreneur, just like it takes a village to raise a child.
Yeah.
And it takes, I'm saying 1 million entrepreneurs to actually shift the whole consciousness on the planet. in business, right? So I'm creating 1 million entrepreneurs in humanity-led business.
Wow.
So for me, it's like, you're just a part of the community that's building this.
Absolutely.
Of course I'm going to listen to this guy. You are the expert.
Thank you. Yeah,
I listen to experts.
Yeah.
So thank you. And thank you for making this tangible. I don't know that I could listen to something, or that I could implement something, like, that I couldn't really tangibly articulate, that I couldn't create a conversation around, that other people could engage with, like lots of other people could engage with, that don't have to be spiritual or not. They can be, or don't have to be, So thank you for, doing the work to make a spreadsheet, to make this clear, tangible, so that really anyone can engage with this conversation.
Absolutely.
I appreciate that. And for those of you, thank you who tuned in. I really, really do appreciate your time and engaging in this conversation. Lo, Sonia, whoever is still on, Facebook users, I spent 5 hours looking at leaves. I hear ya. I guess I could do that too. That's great. Everyone else, thank you. If you'd like to leave any more comments, if you're watching the replay, do say hello to me, and I really appreciate your time. Have a lovely evening, and thank you again, Bobby, for your time in showing this to the world. Take care. Oh, no, don't go away. Bobby. Hey, are you like super busy?
Well, it is 3:30 in the morning.
Oh, fuck. I didn't know it was so early. Oh, Bobby, you're a legend.
I like Australians. Come on, I do this all the time.
Oh,
But, this is my time to do an interview, because everybody's sleeping. It's fine. It's easy.
I was like, okay, you got to go. I just wanted you to check a name. There's this girl that's fully chasing me, and I'm like, she seems pretty cool. Could you just check her name for me?
Why not? Come on. Honestly, I'd love to. Let me just.
You are such a sweetheart. I swear to God. I was like,
I mean, this is just between friends.
you should get some good. Yeah, I love.
Appreciate that good idea to knowing into it or not.
I super name Bond.